that the very things I thought I was an expert at, I didn't really know jack crap about.
Ruslan.
I know you do a lot with like YouTube, and I know you did a lot with music, and I know you're married with a couple kids. I'm married. I've got 2 kids, and I think the thing that me and my wife struggle with the most is the kind of like the work, life, ministry, music balance, like how that all works. Because I work a job, she works a job. I do music a couple nights a week. I got a podcast that I just started. I'm the president of a motorcycle ministry, so we've got a lot of stuff that we do together. But I know that where you're at, it probably requires a lot more of your time than it does mine. So when you started transitioning to having more on your plate, how did you balance that out?
Wow. Okay. How old are your kids and how long have you guys been married?
We've been married 7 years. My son and my daughter are with my previous wife.
Okay.
He is 12 and my daughter is 10.
Very cool. And are they with you guys full time, or you guys do like joint custody?
They're with us on the weekend, and we're transitioning into doing a week on, week off thing right now.
Got it. You work full time. Your wife works full time, and you guys do sounds like quite a few ministries separate. And and you're a bit entrepreneurial or dabbling into some entrepreneurial stuff. And the question is how to find work-life balance as you get more busy? Is that the question?
Yeah. I noticed that music has kind of picked up a little bit, and I know we've started the podcast now, and the ministry, the Redemption Riders, my wife and I do that a lot. She's our secretary. I'm the founder and president. So a lot of that we do together, but there's stuff that I do that doesn't really include her. So like I think our date night is Thursday night. So I have one night a week that we just dedicate to just us.
Awesome.
And then on the kids, sometimes when the kids are here on the weekend, we have ministry events that we go to. But I think the struggle that I have is I can get so hyper focused that, I'll tell her like, hey, I'll be up in the studio 9 o'clock. I'll be done. 10:30, 11 o'clock rolls around. I'm just now coming downstairs. I think I need to get some advice from somebody who's a little further along than I am on what a good balance of that looks like.
Wow. Okay. The great question. By the way, guys, if you're finding value from this, give me a like for the video. There's a gang of y'all watching and not enough likes. So can we just get some likes up? That's a fantastic question for Jason. I think a lot of us who are coming from being, newer in the entrepreneurial space or being married with kids probably feel a lot of this tension. I know a lot of my friends feel this tension that you're talking about that want to do ministry, but they also work full-time jobs and they also have side hustles. Gosh, man, here's the thing, Jason. You don't, bro. That's not a cool answer. Like that's not a fun answer, but you really don't find balance. There is no balance. There is work-life balance is a myth for most people, meaning that it's less of a balance and more of a juggle. It's less of how do I create perfect quadrants so everything gets the right amount of time to in this season, how do I be faithful with juggling all of these different things that God has in front of me? And the way I did that is I stopped trying to juggle as many things, Jason. I take a bunch of stuff off my plate, my guy. It's hard, man. It's hard. And I remember being, in my 20s and we were running a young adults ministry and I was leading a Monday night Bible study and then I was doing music and then I had artists with me that were doing music and I was on staff at the church 30 hours a week, right? And it was, and my wife was pregnant. We were about to have our first child. And it was like, bro, all that stuff in hindsight was me dabbling and figuring out what I could start dominating in. I think you have to figure out a path for you to go from dabbling to dominating before you diversify. See, people think that, and I thought this, and this is a big mistake I made. I thought that on my way to building something, I could do 10 different things mediocrely. And that one of them would pop. And it doesn't work that way. Usually when you're coming from the mud, when you don't have Kendrick Lamar as your big cousin, shout out to Baby Keem, right? When you don't have someone who is putting you on, when you're building something, you really gotta find one thing and lock in on that one thing that you're most proficient at, that you're best at, and make that as good as you can, monetize that, and then you can go back to doing multiple things. So I'm in a spot where I'm going back to doing multiple things, but at a higher degree of excellence, meaning that, Jason, I can't make my own, I can't run this YouTube page and produce, mix, and master my own album. And be a good dad and be a good husband. The capacity of that, it's just impossible. I can't do all of those things. So now I'm in a spot, because this is successful by the grace of God and by the grace of all you guys watching who are Patreon and supporters. Because this is successful, I can take some of that funds and reallocate it to say, Ayman is gonna help me mix my music. I found the best engineer in San Diego. I'm paying him. He's mixing it. I don't have to think about it. All I got to do is send him notes back. That's now off my plate. Ray Rock is helping me produce some of the beats. And I'm still like, man, I may not put out a gajillion different records. You know what I'm saying? Like, I may just do one or two more records, see how they do, see if there's demand. Do I see the needle moving? I'm at 85,000 monthly listeners. Can I scale to 50,000 monthly listeners on Spotify? If not, that may just not be the thing for me. I discovered this thing this week, Jason. It's very interesting, and I'll try to send it to you. And it's this phenomenon, the Dunning-Kruger effect. Have you ever heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect?
No, never.
The Dunning-Kruger effect says that it's a psychological form of bias. And the Dunning-Kruger effect says that the people who are the least optimal at something tend to exhibit the most amount of confidence at something. Okay, so they surveyed engineers that worked at a job where there was hundreds of engineers, and they found out that the lowest 40% of engineers thought they were in the top 5% of engineers. So imagine a bell curve, and the people that are less proficient and less effective at something think they're better at it. If you ask the majority of people who drive, they think they're in the top 5 percentile of drivers, but they're not. It's impossible. So oftentimes people who are the worst at something and have the least amount of knowledge and experience at it think they're better at something than they truly are. And then the crazy part is the people who are actually proficient and good at something, okay, have a degree of imposter syndrome and aren't always the most confident with articulating their degree of expertise. Okay, so it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's a form of cognitive bias, the Dunning-Kruger effect. And here's another thing, Jay. The people who are the most proficient at something don't speak with an absolute certainty of it, because they know there's so much they don't know about something. And the people who think they know it all don't have the capacity to understand how much they actually don't know about said topic. This is why scientists, doctors tend not to be super articulate and tend to come off kind of flimsy, because they know in their field how little they actually know. I know in my field of YouTube how little I actually know, right? And so I'm not as confident giving people the advice all the time, because I know there's a whole lot I don't know, and people think that's flip-floppy and wishy-washy. No, it's an actual effect with people that have a degree of expertise at something, been doing something for a long time, tend to feel like imposters because they know how little they know. This is everywhere right now, just so you know. This is everywhere. This is your favorite content creator. This is your favorite political personality. Most people aren't operating at a degree of expertise. They're just confident, certain, and good looking, and they're getting by on that instead of actually having the capacity to understand everything they don't know. I say all this to say, Jay, that the very things I thought I was an expert at, I didn't really know jack crap about. I started this YouTube channel trying to give Christian rappers advice on marketing. I didn't know crap about marketing. I watched a few freaking Gary Vee videos, and I thought I knew how to apply Gary Vee, and I read some Dave Ramsey stuff, and I listened to some Seth Godin, and I listened to stuff, and I scratched the surface of marketing, and I thought I knew how to tell people to market. I got sort of good at rapping and running a label. I thought I could tell people how to run a label. I didn't really know anything about it, but I was so confident and so certain, because when you first learn something, you think you got it all figured out. Right, and you're not the most humble. So this is everywhere, and it's a bummer, because it's actually dangerous. It's actually dangerous to read a WebMD article about something that's going on with the pandemic and think you have all the answers to the pandemic. Like that's some really dangerous stuff that we're operating under. And this is the same thing in theology. This is the same thing with careers. The same. So my question to you, Jay, is in all these things you're doing, it's difficult for you to step back and say, what am I best at, and what is God blessing the most? What I was best at, Jay, was not rapping, or running a label, or being a producer, or being a Christian marketing guru. What I was best at is the thing I've done the longest, which is teach the Bible and communicate theology in simple forms. I've been doing that for 20 years. I've done that the longest. I probably have the most amount of hours out of anything I've done, reading, studying, teaching the Bible. That's actually not what I wanted to do with this channel, with my career, with my platform. And I had to step back and try a bunch of stuff. And then all of a sudden what took off, what I was the most congruent in, what I was the most, like people were like, wow, I've never understood it that way. Like when you get that kind of stuff, I never got it that way. It was because I had a degree of expertise of what I'm talking about, because I've done it for so long. And so, you have to be careful with this, because I'm like you, bro. I'm passionate about a bunch of different things, but this is what I'll do. I'll be the guy that gets a motorcycle and starts the ministry at my church for the motorcycle club, and then think I'm an expert on the motorcycle culture, and then tell everybody, and then start a YouTube page about riding motorcycles. And I don't know, I mean, I'm 6 months into riding motorcycles. I don't know jack squat about motorcycles. I don't understand the culture, right? I'm that guy. So we have to proceed with a degree of humility, Jay. And so I think in your situation, you got to figure out, what are you best at historically? What do you have the most amount of experience in historically? Are you and you probably won't feel confident about it. You'll probably feel very unsure, and you'll probably be like, but I have so much room to grow in this area. There's so much I don't know. When I'm talking about the Bible, there's so much I don't know. That's why it's like, Ruslan, you don't take a firm stance on Calvinism. It's like, because I've been a Calvinist and I've not been a Calvinist, and I know there's so much more out there that I don't know. So I don't know what I don't know, right? And I'm trying to be authentic and tell you guys, like, I don't know a whole lot, right? I know a few things. That's why I keep it very basic on the basics of Christianity, the basics of the essentials, the basics of holiness. I don't know a whole lot about end times. I don't know a whole lot about casting out demons. I don't talk about stuff I don't know. This is very difficult, and most of us are operating with a degree of bias, and we don't know it. So my question to you, Jay, is I think you're going to have to sit down with your wife, with the people closest to you, and really take a sober look at what is Jay best at. Not what you want to be best at, not what you think you're best at. No, what are you best at? Where's the most amount of fruit? Where's the most amount of evidence that God's hand is on something? The most amount of momentum? Maybe take a step back from all this other stuff and lock in on one thing, and focus on getting one thing really, really, really good. And then when you're very successful at one thing, you're making multiple six figures at one thing, you now have people that want to come around and support that one thing. Then you start to diversify and say, okay, now I'm going to go back to making music the way I'm doing. Oh, got a project coming out, got some music, been sitting on some music. I don't got to do as much. Okay, now I'm going to go back to, I don't know, TikTok. Why? Because I got Zach and Nick D's helping me with TikTok, and now we're thinking through TikTok, right? I'm not naturally good at TikTok. I'm sober enough to know I'm not naturally good at it. Let me get help. Let me get somebody to help me with TikTok. And now I'm going back and addressing these different things. And this takes trial and error. This takes mass amounts of humility. This takes feeling unconfident, feeling like an imposter. But that's actually, if you listen to people that are experts in their field, they don't speak with a ton of certainty. They don't speak like know-it-alls. They don't speak like, you know what I'm saying? And so that would be my pushback to you, man, is I think you need to do less. I think you need to do less, and I think you need to do more on one thing and blow that up as an actual revenue stream for you, and then say, right, because when you are at that point you want to be in your career, everything else kind of falls in line.
Kingstream Entertainment. Ruslan.
Yo, thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. If you found it valuable, considering giving it a like and subscribing. This month, I'm releasing the Love What You Do collection, and to celebrate, I'm doing a 3-day virtual event to help us go from learning to love what we do to ultimately doing what we love. By the way, it's free, so hit the link in the description to grab your seat today.